Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. So, the infrastructure bill just passed, and Congress is, looking at debating and over the $2 billion, which has been whittled down probably to 1.5 trillion. The Build Back Better Acts. Let's talk about this from the beginning. Okay, so the infrastructure bill passed, and for all the talk, this experts have said that to rebuild our infrastructure, we need at least $16 trillion. And yet Biden initially proposed $4 trillion, and then it got cut down to 2, and now when this bill passed, it came out to be $1.2 trillion over 10 years. That's over 10 years. That's not in a single year. That's over 10 years. So that's $120 billion a year. That's it. Yeah. Now, in addition, I've talked about this before. This infrastructure bill is corporate welfare. Every penny of this is going to have to go through the hands of corporations that are going to take their cut off the top before anything gets built. When it was sitting at a much higher number, other analysts said that, I think when it was at 2 or 2.5 trillion, other analysts said that out of that, 100 billion would wind up actually going to infrastructure. So now it's at 1.2 trillion. So we can expect over 10 years, maybe 50 billion of that actually building any infrastructure. If 50 billion, that might be a very generous analysis right there. So, yeah. So you're going to be paying into welfare for the rich. That's it. The companies there have been a lot of companies that have been, amping up for this to try and get their cut of it. You build out, what is part of this? Oh, expanding access to high-speed internet, to broadband. Well, but this isn't providing broadband. I've talked about this before. This is not providing broadband to American citizens. This is making it more affordable. In other words, you pay for the infrastructure to get built, and this is over 10 years, so even before they start building it, the technology involved, the speeds involved are going to be slower than every other country that has broadband internet. So by the end of 10 years, it's going to be completely defunct. And other countries will be decades ahead of us. But you're going to pay for the corporate, welfare that goes into this. You pay for the infrastructure, and then it gets handed over to broadband service providers who charge you money to use the infrastructure that you paid to build. Okay? This is how this works. That's just a small example. We get virtually nothing out of this. and building, electric vehicle charging stations to subsidize Tesla, and Tesla is one of the most heavily government subsidized companies in the history of the world. This is what we get out of this. This is what we get. All right, so the next up is the Build Back Better Act. This is not even the actual congressional budget. All right, this is separate from the actual budget. And by the way, remember, we've been waiting for months for this reconciliation on this bill. For months, we've been waiting for it, and it hasn't come. Now, the government is set to shut down in early December because they only passed a stopgap funding bill. So if it's not passed by that time, it's not going to go through until next year. So what is included, what is not included? Universal health care is obviously not included. A public option, which Joe Biden ran on, is not included. But what is he doing? He wants to expand the ACA, which is in itself a corporate welfare program for insurance companies. You are going to have to pay an insurance corporation for your insurance, and 80% or more of that goes into profits. So you can pay $3,000, $5,000 a year for your insurance premiums and then still have an $8,000 deductible. So you get nothing out of it. So this Build Back Better Act is supposed to include some kind of Medicare expansion. I'm guessing that's going to include, if you buy supplemental insurance. And there's talk about it including expanded benefits like hearing aids, but nothing else, no dental or vision care. Even that is not supposed to take place until 2025 or 2028, well after the next election. So it'll be used. This gives plenty of time for opponents to dismantle this as well. I've talked before about tactic signaling, which is something that Bernie Sanders is notorious for. He'll say, well, I'm going to do this weeks or months before he even plans to do it. And people have this belief that it's so that he can build, support, gather supporters. No, the opposite is what the purpose of this is. He did this in 2016. He did this in 2020. With his elections. Oh, I'm going to do this, and then it never happens. No, what this means is that he is giving the opponents plenty of warning to gather their resources, political opponents and lobbyists, so that the lobbyists can, start pumping all kinds of money into fighting any of these things. So there's no intention of any of this ever getting passed. So we're barely getting anything on infrastructure. There's some talk about expanded child care, but I'm going to wait and see how that actually plays out. Temporary, child care credits, which doesn't do anything for people that don't have children below a certain age. It does absolutely nothing for you. And again, it's temporary. It has a sunset clause. It is due to expire. It's not permanent. There's no suggestion of increasing the minimum wage. And increasing the minimum wage would have nothing to do with the federal budget. Nothing at all. If you're increasing, wages from private jobs, that has nothing to do with the federal budget. Now, allegedly, federal employees are supposed to already be at $15 an hour, but there's a lot of information coming out about that it does not apply to contractors. So even if you can be working for a contractor that works for the government, but you're still making, less than $15 an hour. This is an absolute travesty. The whole thing, both the infrastructure bill and the reconciliation, the whole thing, all of it, it's just giving time for lobbyists and opponents to gather steam and to knock it all down and tear it apart. And even the Build Back Better Act has been knocked down to $2 trillion. Yeah, it was initially higher. Again, it was higher. And now it's knocked down to $2 trillion. And where do you expect it to go from there? Just like the $4 billion got knocked down to 1.2, just a little over 1/4 of what Biden had initially suggested. You're not going to get anything out of this, but the corporations will. And what happens from there? They announce this infrastructure bill. What happens to the stock of Apple and Microsoft and Amazon and Google and anybody that is going to have a government contract for any of these things? Their stocks go up. Paid for by you. All right? This is absolute submission to Wall Street. This is an absolute defeat of the American people. The Democrats are going to cheer for themselves and pat themselves on the back while they are collecting lobbyist money and campaign donations. So really, the Democrats have set themselves up for an absolute turnover where they are going to lose absolutely any majority they've got right now. In 2022, they've already lost Virginia. So what happens in 2022? Voters are going to look at it and say, well, you didn't do shit. You didn't do anything for us. So they'll vote in the Republicans. This is the way it works. Back and forth and back and forth. And always both parties surrendering to, not surrendering to, catering to, bowing down to the oligarchy, the corporate rule of our government, of our economy, of our society as a whole. So don't cheer for this infrastructure bill. This is not going to help you. This is not meant to help you. All right, share this video. Talk about these subjects. If you can, please donate $1 a month to help expand the channel. And I'll catch you in the next one.